Former professional wrestler has been arrested.
That wrestler who goes by the name Alberto Del Rio.
The luxury cars, the personal ring announcer.
Alberto Del Rio!
The crisp suit jacket, the smug smirk. For a brief, electric moment in WWE history, Alberto Del Rio was the most electrifying heel in the entire company. A four-time world champion, the first Mexican-born wrestler to ever hold the WWE Championship, a man destined for a legacy carved in gold. But right now, in April of 2026, that man's mugshot is going viral across social media.
Former WWE wrestler Alberto Del Rio has been arrested in San Antonio and charged with sexual assault.
And wrestling fans around the world are watching the total, irreversible collapse of Alberto Del Rio. Because this time, it might actually be over, for good. Let's get into it. The rise. Who was Alberto Del Rio? To understand just how far this man has fallen, you have to understand exactly who he was. Alberto Del Rio was born in San Luis Potosí into one of the most well-known Mexican wrestling families. His father is noted luchador Dos Caras, while his uncles are the legendary Mil Mascaras and Psicodelico. This was a man bred to be a champion, wrestling royalty from day one. Before working for WWE, Rodriguez used the ring name Dos Caras Jr. as both a mixed martial artist and luchador in mostly Mexico and Japan, achieving success in the CMLL by winning the CMLL World Heavyweight Championship once. WWE came calling in 2009. Rodriguez signed with WWE and made his debut on their main roster the following year as Alberto Del Rio. And the character? Absolute gold. A filthy rich Mexican aristocrat who drove to the ring in $200,000 luxury cars, complete with a personal ring announcer in Ricardo Rodriguez. The crowd hated him immediately, perfectly. Then, just 5 months into his main roster run, something stunning happened. He won the 2011 Royal Rumble and the 2011 Money in the Bank ladder match, making him the only professional wrestler to win both in the same calendar year. Think about that. 1 year. Royal Rumble winner, Money in the Bank winner, and he was just getting started. Del Rio cashed in his Money in the Bank contract at SummerSlam 2011, challenging CM Punk after the main event, where Punk had defeated John Cena to become the undisputed WWE Champion. Between the two matches, Punk was attacked by Kevin Nash, which led to Del Rio scoring a quick pinfall victory to win the WWE Championship for the first time. Historic, the first Mexican-born WWE Champion ever. The crowd in Los Angeles that night went absolutely silent in disbelief. That was Alberto Del Rio at his absolute peak. He had the world in his hands, and then he burned it all down. The slap heard round the world. WWE firing 2014. Here is where the cracks started showing, big ones. Del Rio was fired from WWE on August 7, 2014, due to unprofessional conduct following an altercation with an employee who allegedly made a racist joke.
He slapped him almost into next week.
Now look, the story behind it matters. A social media team member made a racial joke at Del Rio's expense, something to the effect that, as a Hispanic man, he should be the one cleaning up the dishes. Del Rio's response? He slapped the man across the face, hard. Same day, WWE showed him the door. Here is the complicated part. A lot of people, and honestly, a lot of us watching this, felt some level of sympathy for Del Rio in that moment. The joke was disgusting. But WWE has a zero-tolerance policy, and once he put his hands on an employee, that was it. Gone. Just like that. 4 world championships. Royal Rumble winner. Done. Because he could not control himself. That inability to control himself, though, it was not just a one-time thing. Word from people who worked backstage during his time in WWE was that Del Rio had a serious temper. Multiple accounts of backstage altercations that never made the news. Stories of showing up to events with black eyes from late-night brawls nobody ever reported. The slap was not a moment of unusual behavior. It was the moment the public finally saw what people inside the locker room apparently already knew. He returned to the company in 2015, but left again in 2016 after WWE suspended him for 30 days for violating its wellness policy. Second chance. Gone. 2 strikes, 2 departures. But the worst was still coming. By a mile. The Paige relationship, a disaster in slow motion. Enter Paige. In 2016, Del Rio started dating the former WWE Divas champion, and from the very beginning, it was a relationship that the entire wrestling world watched spiral. The two became engaged in 2016 before splitting the following year. In 2017, Del Rio had a dispute with Paige at the Orlando International Airport that police categorized as domestic violence battery. At the time, Paige claimed she and Del Rio had an argument. Leaked audio and witness accounts described a heated, explosive confrontation, screaming. Del Rio allegedly dared Paige to call the police while she begged him to leave her alone. The video spread across social media like wildfire. No arrest was made that day, but the damage to his reputation was already spreading. Impact Wrestling suspended Del Rio due to a personal domestic violence issue with his girlfriend Paige and stripped him of the championship he had just won. He eventually returned, but his time with the company was on borrowed time. He was released from Impact on April 7, 2018, after no-showing the Lucha Underground vs. Impact Wrestling event in New Orleans. Another promotion, another exit, another burned bridge, and then Paige herself went public. In November 2020, she told reporters, "It's like it's up to 6-7 hours a day. You're literally trapped in a certain room and getting your ass beat every couple of minutes. You know what I mean?" Del Rio fired back, telling TMZ, "It was the other way around. I have the evidence, not just words. 2 wrestlers, 2 wildly different accounts. No conviction. But the pattern? The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore." The Texas Nightmare, aggravated kidnapping and sexual assault 2020. And then came the big one, the one that had people thinking this was truly the end. In 2020, while in Texas, Del Rio was arrested and later indicted on 1 count of aggravated kidnapping, along with 4 counts of sexual assault. According to reports, the arrest took place on May 9, 2020, after a woman contacted authorities in San Antonio earlier that week. The alleged incident was said to have occurred on May 3, 2020, around 10 p.m. local time, when Del Rio reportedly became upset after accusing the woman of infidelity. What she described was horrifying. She claimed that Del Rio slapped her across the head multiple times and forced her to wear a dress and dance for him.
Juan allegedly hit the victim several times in the head before making her put on a dress and dance for him.
Del Rio allegedly told her not to cry and threatened to take her son and drop him in the middle of the road somewhere. She went on to accuse him of tying her hands with boxing straps, putting a sock in her mouth, and sexually assaulting her for several hours with various objects. Talk about a nightmare. The kidnapping charge alone could have sent him away for decades. And here is the thing. Del Rio got out on bail with a $50,000 bond. $50,000 for aggravated kidnapping and 4 counts of sexual assault. Out the door like it was nothing. Then the case dragged. The trial had been postponed multiple times, originally scheduled for January 2021, then pushed back to May, then to August, then to October, then to December 13th. Every time a new date appeared, something pushed it back. And then, on December 10th, 2021, the case collapsed. The case was dismissed in December 2021 after the accuser did not appear to testify, reportedly due to fearing for her life after threats were made by Del Rio's family and friends. Del Rio walked. He told reporters, "I never kidnapped or sexually assaulted anyone. They were false accusations, and the same bureau that investigated, intercepted phones, and in the end, determined my innocence." Convenient, right? The LA chapter, still burning bridges in 2025. You would think that after all of that, the WWE firings, the Paige saga, the Texas arrest, the kidnapping charge, you would think a man might lay low, keep a quiet profile, rebuild. But not Alberto Del Rio. No. He came back swinging, literally. In March 2023, Del Rio made his first appearance in the PWA in over 7 years at the 2023 Lucha Libre World Cup. AA still needed a big Mexican name. Del Rio still had that name value. So back he went. And for a while, it actually worked. At Triple Mania in Mexico City on August 17, 2024, Del Rio reclaimed the AAA Mega Championship from Nick Nemeth, turning Rudo and aligning himself with Conan and Dorian Roldan, 4-time WWE champion, now a 2-time AAA Mega champion. The comebacks kept coming, but here is where things get messy. Again, in early 2025, Del Rio got into a physical altercation with fans at an AAA show in Tijuana. He was suspended for 6 months by the Tijuana Wrestling Commission situation. A fan at a wrestling event. He jumped into the crowd and went after a spectator. There are videos. A chair was reportedly thrown. A female fan was reportedly injured in the chaos. The meltdown was right there on camera for the world to see. Del Rio last wrestled for AAA in 2025.
WWE is announcing the acquisition of Mexican Lucha Libre promotion AAA.
But stopped appearing for the company shortly after WWE acquired it. WWE chose not to renew Del Rio's contract even though he was AAA's reigning mega champion at the time of the purchase. Read that again. He was the champion, the reigning champion, and WWE looked at his name on the roster, looked at his history, and said absolutely not. Del Rio lost the AAA Mega Championship to Vikingo when WWE took over the company. Gone, again, for good measure. By late 2025, despite everything, Del Rio was still insisting a WWE return was coming. He told one interviewer, "We've always been in touch, and it's just the matter of setting the table properly. The chips will fall. Sure they will, Alberto. Sure they will." Mary Carmen, the hidden warning signs. And now we get to the part of this story that makes everything feel even heavier, because the woman at the center of this latest arrest is not some stranger. The alleged victim has been identified as Del Rio's wife, Mary Carmen Rodriguez Lucero, who is currently under medical and legal protection. Who is she? Mary Carmen is a 41-year-old competitive cyclist from San Luis Potosi, a decorated athlete in her own right, a mother of two, with thousands of followers on social media who watched her share race victories, travel photos, and public support for her husband. A life that, from the outside, looked pretty decent. But behind closed doors, according to journalist reports, it was anything but. Reports from sources close to Mary Carmen describe a relationship that had been deteriorating for at least a year. Intense jealousy from Del Rio, controlling behavior, reports of neighbors calling 911 on multiple occasions after hearing screaming and physical altercations, with Del Rio allegedly blocking police access when they arrived at the door. Sources reportedly claim he told his wife he had government connections, and there was nothing she could do. Nothing. And then, a month before the arrest that changed everything, Mary Carmen reached out to Mexican journalist Flor Rubio through WhatsApp. What she wrote was heartbreaking. She briefly reached out before withdrawing her request, writing, "I went through a situation with my husband. It was an impulse on my part. I've changed my mind. I don't want to cause trouble or make things bigger." She pulled back. She retreated. And then, on April 6, 2026, everything exploded again. The arrest, April 6, 2026. April 6, 2026, San Luis Potosi, Mexico, inside a home in the Lomas del Tecnológico neighborhood, according to the official statement from the San Luis Potosi State Attorney General's office. The defendant was handed over to the prosecutor's office, specializing in cases involving women, families, and offenses after being arrested in the act by officers of the State Civil Guard, following a distress call made by the victim on the afternoon of Monday, April 6th. According to the victim's complaint, an argument reportedly broke out that led the defendant to commit various acts of physical and verbal abuse against his partner.
Former WWE star who lives in San Antonio is facing charges for assault.
Here is how it actually went down, according to detailed reports from Mexican media. The argument started over something almost mundanely ordinary. Mary Carmen wanted to go out and ride her bicycle. He tried to stop her. He insulted her. He allegedly physically assaulted her. She managed to lock herself in the bathroom and call 911, though he reportedly ripped her phone away mid-call and continued the assault. But she had already gotten through. Elements of the Guardia Civil Estatal arrived at the home and, per official accounts, found the alleged victim with visible injuries to her face and arms. Cops showed up, and they did not just knock on the door and write a report. Rodriguez's wife warned police about what she described as the dangerousness of the aggressor, while alleging she had been the victim of physical violence. They walked in, saw the injuries, and arrested Alberto Del Rio on the spot. No gray area, caught in the act. The mugshot went viral within hours, and for once, there was no walking away from this one so easily. The charges, up to 20 years. Here is where the legal situation gets truly serious. Prosecutors in San Luis Potosi are reportedly considering charges that carry a potential sentence of up to 20 years in prison. While the investigation remains ongoing, the severity of the possible charges has now come into clearer focus. According to reports from Milenio, authorities could pursue one of two charges under the state's criminal code. Option 1 is not great for Del Rio. The baseline charge of violencia familiar, domestic violence, carries 1 to 7 years in prison and a fine of 20 to 700 UMA days, regardless of whether injuries were produced. 7 years. For most people, that would be the worst news of their lives. But option 2 is catastrophic. A more severe charge, lesiones, cometidas contra la mujer en razón de su género, meaning injuries committed against a woman based on her gender, carries a potential sentence of 8 to 20 years in prison. Milenio is reporting that this charge may apply in cases involving degrading or severe injuries, mutilation, or when the alleged assault follows prior threats, harassment, or a pattern of violence. A pattern of violence. Does that phrase ring any bells? An Orlando airport incident, a 2018 domestic violence arrest, a Texas kidnapping and sexual assault indictment, a fan assault in Tijuana, and now this. If prosecutors go for the more serious charge, and given what is documented, they very well might, Alberto Del Rio could be looking at 2 decades behind bars, 20 years in a Mexican prison. That is not a storyline, that is not a suspension, that is a life-altering sentence. And just to be clear about where things stand right now, the case is being handled by the Fiscalía General del Estado de San Luis Potosi. Infobae Mexico has reported that Rodriguez Lucero is currently under medical and legal protection as the investigation continues. The fallout, promotions dropping him instantly. The wrestling world did not wait for a conviction. The fallout was immediate and total. The Crash Lucha Libre announced that Alberto Del Rio has been suspended indefinitely in light of his domestic violence arrest in Mexico.
Alberto Del Rio was arrested.
No hesitation. No, let's wait and see. Their statement read, "The Crash Lucha Libre is a company with values that promotes the sport in a family-friendly way and condemns all acts of violence outside of sports. For this reason, we will suspend Alberto Del Rio from our programming after the events that recently occurred." Del Rio had been scheduled to appear for The Crash on April 17th in Tijuana, Baja California, where he would have competed for the Crash World Heavyweight Championship in a triple threat match. That championship match? Gone. And rumor has it, the wrestling promotion he himself was in the process of building, called LM52, featuring names like Hijo de Dos Caras, Texano Jr., and Dr. Wagner Jr., now has a gigantic question mark hanging over its entire future, with an event previously scheduled for May in Mexico City, now very much in doubt. WWE, after quietly watching everything unfold from their corporate offices, they said exactly nothing publicly. But they do not need to. They already answered the question when they took over AOA and chose not to renew his contract. That silence is the loudest statement of all. The big picture, a career built and burned here, is what makes all of this so genuinely sad, if you can find sympathy for it. Alberto Del Rio could have been one of the all-time greats. He had the bloodline. He had the talent. In WWE, he became the first Mexican wrestler to achieve world champion status in WWE history, winning both the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship twice each. That is real history. Unimpeachable history. That accomplishment does not disappear, but every championship reign, every Royal Rumble victory, every WrestleMania moment, all of it is now buried under an avalanche of arrests, accusations,
Accused of beating a woman he knows, tying her up, and sexually assaulting her,
altercations, and self-destruction. After leaving WWE, Del Rio spent time in ALA, Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and several independent promotions before stepping away from the ring in 2025. But outside the ring, his personal life has consistently overshadowed every single accomplishment. Overshadowed? That is putting it kindly. At 48 years old, Alberto Del Rio is now looking at the very real possibility of spending his 50s inside a Mexican prison. Every promotion that gave him a second chance, WWE, Impact, AAA, the crash, has either dropped him, fired him, or suspended him. The doors are closing, one by one, all of them. And here is the detail that sticks with you. A month before this arrest, his wife secretly reached out for help. She had fear. She had a message she sent and then pulled back. I don't want to cause trouble or make things bigger. She tried to protect him, even then. And on April 6, 2026, while simply trying to ride her bicycle, she ended up locked in a bathroom calling 911, with bruises on her face and her arms. The man who once called himself El Patron, the boss, is now under investigation for gender-based violence against the woman he married. The charges could send him away for 20 years. The wrestling world has moved on without him, and this time, there does not appear to be another rope to grab. Goodbye, Alberto Del Rio. And this time, it really does feel like goodbye forever. Which part of Alberto Del Rio's story shocked you the most? The rise or the fall? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. And before you leave, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Wrestle Rivals so you don't miss the next ones.